What is going on, everyone? It's GentooMan here, also known as Rainy, and today's video is going to be a bit of a different kind of video. I'm still working on all the videos I've talked about. I'm sorry, there's been a lot going on, but I really wanted to talk about this instead of a story time today. So I've been playing a lot of Multiversus recently. I'm actually not sure if I've used any gameplay in videos yet, but I have been playing a lot of it recently, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I didn't really get into it during the beta, although I did play a little bit of it, but it came out again, and a lot of my friends have been playing, and I'm having a really good time with it. And I really hope this game sticks around for a while, and I hope they add new characters for years to come, and I really hope this game succeeds because I'm really enjoying it. So in today's video, I wanted to sort of give you my ultimate character wish list, at least that I came up with. I have this whole notes in my phone that I wrote down all the characters that I want to see. So I wanted to talk about them with you guys today. So I'm going to do this is first things first, I'm going to talk about all the franchises that are already in the game, and I'm going to pick one fighter from each of those franchises that I want them to add, just a new one from each of the franchises that are already represented. And then I'm going to go off into characters who from a franchise that haven't been represented yet, and we'll go from there. So let's hop right into it, starting with the franchises that are already in the game. We'll start with Adventure Time. Now from Adventure Time, we already have Finn, Jake, and the Banana Soldier. And there's been a lot of leaks and data mines saying that we're going to get Marceline. And Marceline would be really cool, and I like Marceline as a character. I just think the most interesting one they could add that I can think of would probably be the Ice King. And it's kind of a basic pick, I know, but it would be more villain rep for the game, which it's definitely trying to get back into, so I could see it happening. But also, as much as I like Marceline as a character and as cool as she would be with her, vampire abilities and whatnot, the Ice King, I feel like the ice-based gameplay is something we don't have yet in Multiverses, and it'd just be something cool to explore. So if I had to add another Adventure Time character, gun to my head, I'd probably pick Ice King just as my default pick. All right, now let's move on to DC. Now, DC is absolutely going to be the Fire Emblem of Multiverses. And for those of you who don't know what that means, in Smash Bros., Fire Emblem just had a ton of characters, and it was overrepresented, a lot of people thought. That's definitely going to be DC in this case. This game is definitely going to be overpopulated with DC characters, which is fine, but I just want them to be cool characters, Because that's the thing, is we just got the Joker when the game relaunched, and the Joker, we knew he was coming at some point. He had to. He's the Joker. But now I'm seeing all these people saying oh, well, we have Superman and Wonder Woman, so we got to add Lex Luthor and Cheetah, we got to give them their nemesises. And I wouldn't be upset if they added Lex Luthor and Cheetah, they're cool characters, and I feel there could be cool things done with them. They're just not as interesting, I feel there's many more characters within DC that they could pick that'd be cooler. I decided to not go with an obscure pick, though, and I picked someone within the Justice League. I just have to say, however, I think the entirety of the Justice League will make it into this game eventually if they do keep updating it for quite a while. Unfortunately, in this discussion, I'm not really going to be talking about Martian Manhunter. I love that character in DC Comics. It's just at the moment, because we already have Superman, I think Martian Manhunter would be a pretty weak pick. Not because I don't like him, but because I feel there's not that much more they could do with him, because we already have Superman, So for this one, I've kind of narrowed it down to 3 members of the Justice League, those being Aquaman, The Flash, or Green Lantern. Now, I think Aquaman has the potential to either be the coolest or the lamest of these picks. He could be really cool. I think he'd probably be a bruiser type along with Batman. It just really all depends how they do him, because he could be really cool if they made him a little more technical and they gave him a lot more abilities, maybe pulling octopus tentacles out of nowhere to grab people, summoning all these different sea animals, throwing waves at people. It could be really cool, but they could also make it really lame if they just gave him nothing but trident combos. That'd be just a little lame and be really disappointing if they just did that. The Flash is probably the one that I want the least, I won't lie. I mean, I don't dislike the Flash as a character. I wouldn't even be upset if they added him to the game. The only thing is, I just feel the only thing they can do is it'd be cool to see how his speed would work, but at the end of the day, he's just punching and kicking, so he's just got combos with that. He'd definitely be an assassin type, and maybe they could make it cool, but out of these 3, the Flash is probably the one that I would want the least. And last up for DC is Green Lantern, and Green Lantern, there's just so much you could do with him. I guess there's always the opportunity to screw it up and make him lame, but they'd probably make him a mage/ranged character. And there's just a ton they could do with Green Lantern. They could definitely make his moveset super unique. And he's probably the safest bet out of these 3. So I'll probably go with him. I'll say Green Lantern is my official pick for a new DC character. Next up is Friday the 13th, which is a franchise that I don't really know who else they would add. I guess they could add Tommy Jarvis, but I feel that wouldn't be that cool. So Friday the 13th, I don't really have a new pick for Friday the 13th because I don't see them ever adding a new Friday the 13th character. If they manage to get a hold of the rights for Nightmare on Elm Street, I could see them putting in Freddy Krueger, but I don't think they own the rights to that, so I don't really have a pick for Friday the 13th. Moving on to Game of Thrones, I haven't seen a lot of Game of Thrones. I don't know a lot about it, but I have seen a lot of people talking about like leaks and just wanting Daenerys, I believe is how you pronounce it. She's like the Dragon Queen or something like that, so that sounds cool. So I'll just make Daenerys my pick for Game of Thrones. Gremlins and the Iron Giant don't really have anyone else they can add. Like for Gremlins, I could have said like either Stripe or Gizmo if they had just added one, but they put both in the game already. So there's not much more they can do with Gremlins unless they want to add like one of the mutated Gremlins from the second movie or like the Smart Gremlin or something like that. Or if they want to add fucking Kent Mansley for Iron Giant, but I don't think they do. Let's move on to Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is also another one I could see overpopulating this game because we already have, I think we have three. We have Bugs, Marvin the Martian, and Taz. But I have some choice word. I have a weird choice for Looney Tunes. Now, definitely the common answer for which Looney Tunes character they should add next is Daffy Duck, and I'd definitely be okay with that. I like Daffy Duck. But my pick is absolutely the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. I guess it's two picks, but they were always like my favorite Looney Tunes segment as a kid. I would love to see the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. I feel like Roadrunner could be really interesting just being fast and stuff, but also because he only has 2 legs and no arms. And Wile E. Coyote has like infinite potential for what he could do. He'd probably be like a mage and ranged fighter. Just with all his Acme products and stuff. There's infinite potential with Wile E. Coyote. I think they'd both be sick, so they're my choices for Looney Tunes. Now, up next is Rick and Morty, and I haven't watched Rick and Morty for quite a while. I used to really enjoy it, though. I mean, still like it, I just haven't watched it in a while. And I'm not really sure who they'd add as a new character. Like, and I've seen some people say maybe they could add Summer, but personally, I think Beth would probably be a little bit more interesting. I think there's a little bit more to her character that they could do, but honestly, I'd be okay with either of them. Even, like, Jerry would be kind of funny. Now, for the Matrix, I think it's kind of an obvious pick, as I'd say Neo, because we already have Agent Smith. We don't have Neo. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So if not Neo, then like Morpheus probably, but I'd definitely go with Neo as my pick for the Matrix. Scooby-Doo is also kind of an obvious one. The next Scooby-Doo character should absolutely be Scooby. Like it kind of baffles me that we don't have Scooby yet, but personally, I'd be pretty disappointed if the next Scooby-Doo character was Fred or Daphne. Like, I just don't think there's that much interesting to do with them. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it into the game, but I definitely want them to do Scooby first. For Space Jam, I'm just going to say Michael Jordan. Like, he'd basically just be a reskinned LeBron, and it'd be kind of weird if they added Michael Jordan as well. The only other option I could think of was, like, people from the Goon Squad, and I don't really know a lot about them, so I'll just play it safe and say Michael Jordan. Now, I don't really have another choice picked out for Steven Universe, because, hot take, I don't really like Steven Universe as a show that much, and I don't know much about the characters. I tried looking into it. They don't seem that interesting, so personally, I don't want another one. So I'm not going to choose one. You guys, if any of you have a character from Steven Universe you want, let me know in the comments. That pretty much does it for adding on to franchises already in the game. The only one left is Tom and Jerry, but like who else do you add from Tom and Jerry? You already have both of them. So let's start with my new franchises wish list, starting out with Godzilla and Kong from the Monsterverse. Now, personally, I feel like these two are an inevitability. I feel like they will absolutely show up at some point. Monsterverse is a very big franchise for Warner Brothers right now. These two would probably come out in the same update at the same time as well. I definitely think they are coming. It's all just a matter of when. I think they'd both be tank characters, absolutely, but Godzilla would probably be a little bit more like ranged but slower because he could use his atomic breath, and then Kong could be still slow like a tank, but he has a little bit more like movement to him because he's like a melee fighter. Next up, I have Max Rokitansky from Mad Max. Now, I'm not sure what classification Max would fall under. Probably Bruiser, maybe Tank, but I'd say probably Bruiser would be a safer bet. Now, Max's basic moves could have like to do with like using guns and like weapons and stuff, but I definitely want them to make his moveset focused around like the vehicles and stuff that Mad Max is so well known for. I think that'd make for a really cool moveset. My next pick is Rick Deckard from Blade Runner, like Harrison Ford's character. This was a bit of a complicated one because I actually don't know if this could happen. I thought about saying Officer K, like Ryan Gosling's character, because I thought he'd be a more popular and more plausible choice. But as it happens, Warner Brothers doesn't own the rights to Blade Runner 2049, only the first one, and I'm not sure how those rights work and if they'd even have access to the character to put him in this game. But regardless of that, this is the only one that'd be possible, if it is possible, and I love Blade Runner, so I'd love to see this happen. He'd probably be more of a ranged character. I just think there's a lot of potential they could use him for. I think he'd be really cool, and I'd like to see him in the game. Next up, I have Gypsy Danger from Pacific Rim. If they did add Gypsy, it'd probably be in the same update as Godzilla and Kong, maybe. They could do just like a big characters update. And I feel like this is a fighter that a lot of people would get excited about. It'd be one of those ones that they'd announce it, and people would be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that movie. That movie was really cool. I'm excited for this character. I think it could even help like as just publicity if they wanted to do another Pacific Rim project, like movie or TV show or something. Like this would be a good way to like garner interest for it. But on top of that, I just think Gypsy would be a really cool fighter, and I really like Pacific Rim. He'd definitely be a tank for sure, but I think he could be kind of a like medium pace between Godzilla and Kong. And he could be a little bit more technical, have a little bit more combos to use all the things that the robot can do, like the blades, the gun, just all those things like that. I think he'd be a really cool character to add. Now this next one I'm kind of confused as to why I haven't seen more people suggesting this. I thought people would be more into this idea, but that character is Wade Watts, or Parzival, from Ready Player One. Now, Ready Player One is such a crossover within itself already. I'm honestly surprised there hasn't been more people campaigning for him in this game. He'd fit perfectly. His entire moveset could be built up of references. He'd probably be a mage fighter, I'd say, would probably be where he'd place. But just given the source material from which this character originates, I think that alone makes him perfect for Multiversus. And I just think they could do some really cool stuff with his movesets as well, so I'd love to see him. Now, this next one's a little bit of an oddball pick, but The Meg from The Meg. I was just talking with my friends about like some iconic franchises and who owns them. We got into the subject of Jaws. Warner Brothers doesn't own Jaws, Universal does, but we did come across The Meg, which Warner Brothers owns. Now, do I think this will happen? Probably not. I don't see a very high chance of this happening. And I guess they could always add like Jason Statham's character, but I think it'd be a lot cooler if they added the shark instead. He'd probably be a tank. He'd probably be pretty basic of just like hit things, and it'd probably be pretty funny though. I could definitely see Multiversus embracing the memes, though, because we have LeBron James in the game, which I can't say I expected. The Banana Soldier from Adventure Time, and, like, Shaggy has his Ultra Instinct and everything. So I could definitely see them, like, leaning into, like, the memes and, like, the characters that are just funny that they're in the game at all, which I think the Meg would definitely fall under, but I would love it if they added the Meg to Multiversus. Next, I have Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, and I was going to put this as my DC pick, but I figured Watchmen could technically be considered a different franchise since it's not technically DC Universe. Now, my original pick for Watchmen was going to be Rorschach, but then I thought about it, and although Rorschach is my favorite character, he probably would just end up being too similar to Batman, and his moveset just wouldn't be that unique. So I went with Dr. Manhattan instead. There's just a lot more cool stuff they could do with him, and I think he'd be a nice addition, nice change of pace. He's got all sorts of abilities and powers that they could work their way into, and they can put them part of his moveset. He'd be really interesting for sure to see how he plays out. This next one I could actually definitely see happening in the near future, but I would love to see Barbie and Ken from Barbie. Barbie could be an excellent mage fighter with like all her different outfits and different like settings, like the camping, the boating, the everything. Barbie could be a fantastic mage fighter. I think Ken would be a cool bruiser as well. Like just basically make most of his moveset up from that Ken fight scene at the end of the movie, like the I'm just Ken part. I just feel like these two would be hilarious. They'd be awesome. Their movesets would be great, and I'd love to see them in the game. And I could also definitely see this happening. Willy Wonka from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is the next pick. And he just has so much like whimsical shit in all of his appearances that they could pull from for his moveset. Like you have the original like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the new Wonka movie. Like there's so much you could do. You could use him, the weird stuff he does, the weird stuff he's got in the Chocolate Factory, the Oompa Loompas. Like there's so much that could be done with him. Also, I think the Wonka movie that just came out was pretty successful, so it'd be a cool way to get more out of that. They could definitely bring him into this game. I feel like he garners some interest, so I put him on the list. And speaking of characters that have been played by Timothée Chalamet recently, Paul from Dune is absolutely an inevitability at this point. Well, I'm actually going to rephrase that and say that a character from Dune or some Dune representation is an inevitability. I don't know if they'd choose Paul specifically. He's just the one I went with. Dune is super popular right now. I think Dune Part 2 is still the highest grossing movie of 2024. So I could absolutely see a Dune rep coming to this game very soon. I'd assume it would be Paul. Maybe it would be Chani. Maybe Fade Routha. I'm not sure. But I would be surprised if there was no Dune rep in this game, if I'm being honest. Now, I think Paul would probably be an assassin type with his fast fighting and everything, but they could also give him some good defensive capabilities with, like, the voice thing that they have. I would honestly not be surprised if there was more than one Dune rep that they added to this game, but that's just what I think they would do. I think they'd do Paul at least, and I'd definitely love to see him. Jack Torrance from The Shining is also something I thought up. He'd be cool. It'd be cool to see him in the game. I think a lot of people would be excited about it. I don't know exactly what they do for his moveset. I mean, he'd most definitely be carrying an axe as his main weapon. I don't know exactly what they do. There's definitely some stuff they can do. I think the Multiversus team has the creativity behind them to make a cool moveset for this guy, but he'd definitely be an interesting one. And on the subject of Stanley Kubrick films, my next pick is Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange. I think Alex would definitely fall under the assassin category. He'd probably be specializing in fast and mischievous combos, probably with that cane of his, a couple blades. Maybe he could bring in the Droogs for a couple attacks. The only thing with Alex, I do see the likelihood of him happening as very small. He's one of those characters that he's absolutely iconic to the right audience, but for the modern audience and the younger audience that's playing Multiversus, he's probably not as recognizable. And some people I've brought this idea up to have said that Alex is kind of a little bit too mature of a character to be added to this game that's probably a little bit targeted towards a bit of a younger audience. But by that same token, you have things like Gremlins, and although Gremlins isn't like the most mature thing of all time, it's definitely not a movie I'd show like a little kid or something. But also we have things like Friday the 13th and Game of Thrones, which are definitely not designed for a younger audience. So I don't think the maturity of the franchise that Alex is from, or not franchise, the film that Alex is from is going to be an issue. It's just, I don't think the audience of Multiverses would find Alex iconic enough for him to draw in that kind of attention. That being said, we don't really know their strategy with adding characters. I think it'll reveal itself the next time they add a couple. We'll see what they're going for. I just love to see Alex. I think it'd be really cool, although I don't know how high his chances are. Next up, a character I'm genuinely surprised isn't in the game already, Harry Potter. Now, it occurred to me that with all the controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling recently, it could be that Warner Brothers wants to sort of distance themselves from her and therefore the Harry Potter franchise. However, Hogwarts Legacy just came out not that long ago. It did fantastic. There's clearly an audience for Harry Potter. There always is going to be. So who knows? Maybe they're saving him for when they need to bring some players back. So they'll drop Harry Potter, who's a really popular character. I know there's a new series in development, so maybe they'll drop him alongside that series or something like that. But Harry Potter is one of those franchises that everybody knows, most people love, and it's just one of the most recognizable things like ever. So it surprises me that there's no Harry Potter rep in this game yet. So for a bit of a funny pick, I have the Wolf Pack from The Hangover. I was actually discussing this with my friends last night and how funny this would be, and I could see this happening because Multiversus seems like a game that will definitely embrace the funny and just the absurdity of it all, just to make a fun and enjoyable game. And the Hangover movies are very popular, so if they added like all three of them, they could do like an Ice Climbers type thing, or they could even do like a Pokemon trainer type thing, where you're tossing around this really funny idea, how instead of the Pokemon trainer in the background, you have like Doug, the guy who they leave on the hotel roof, just in the background on the hotel roof instead of the Pokemon trainer. And then you can like switch between the three guys and they all have their own like moves and stuff. This one's a little out there, but it's something that somehow I could see happening if enough people like campaigned for it, because The Hangover is quite popular. So I could see this possibly happening, although I don't think it's terribly likely. Next, I have Beetlejuice from Beetlejuice, and before the game launched again, me and my friend were talking about the characters and stuff, and I could have sworn they already put him in the game, but they didn't. There was just a lot of like data mines and leaks and stuff about him and the Wicked Witch of the West, who would also be cool, but Beetlejuice is definitely the one I'm interested in out of those two. And if those leaks were true and he was in early development, or he's still in development, they're going to add him at some point, I could definitely see him being added later this year, because something for a release of characters that we do have to go off of is Black Adam was launched in this game like around when the Black Adam movie came out. And for those of you who don't know, there's another Beetlejuice movie coming out at the end of this year, so I could definitely see them dropping Beetlejuice around the time of that movie. And since I brought it up, the Wicked Witch of the West, I know there's a Wicked movie coming out at the end of this year. I don't know if that's Warner Brothers property, though. If it is, maybe they'll drop the Wicked Witch around then, but if it isn't, probably not. Another one that I'm surprised hasn't been added to the game yet is Gandalf, or just any Lord of the Rings rep. It did get me thinking that maybe there's something about like book properties, because it's both like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings haven't gotten any rep yet, or maybe they just wanted to test the waters with other things and save them. But Lord of the Rings has so much potential. It's another super popular franchise that I'm surprised isn't in the game. There's so many characters they could add. They could do Gandalf, Legolas, Gimli, Frodo, Bilbo, Gollum even Smaug from The Hobbit, like the huge dragon, would be sick. But I'm going to go with the safe pick and say Gandalf. I could definitely see that happening unless they give us some reason as to why they're not doing Lord of the Rings or anything like that. Next choice is a character that most people know, but most people probably haven't thought to add to this game, and that's Sloth from The Goonies. The Goonies is another one of those classic movies that just, if they added Sloth, I feel like there's just that nostalgia factor, you know, like a bunch of people would see that he's in the game. They'd be like, oh, cool, like I remember the Goonies. It'd just be a good way to like bring the Goonies back into the light. And Sloth is just a classic character. He's so like recognizable from that film. A Goonies stage would also be awesome. So yeah, I'd love to see Sloth added to Multiversus. Next up is everyone's favorite pet detective, Ace Ventura. Now, I just rewatched the first Ace Ventura not that long ago, and then that one is when I realized that it was a Warner Brothers property. Come on, try and tell me that Ace Ventura wouldn't be sick in this game. Like, you could have all these animals helping him, and he's Jim Carrey, so that'd be awesome. So yeah, Ace Ventura for Multiversus, please. This next one is kind of a total meme, but I think it'd be really funny if they added Magic Mike. There's like no way this happens. I don't know why they would do this, but can you imagine how funny that would be if you could play as Magic Mike in this game? Like just stripper Channing Tatum. That'd be hilarious. I would absolutely main him. Please add him to the game. Now, the last character I want to talk about in this video is Pennywise from It. This one I could definitely see happening later down the line. The addition of Jason showed us that they're not going to shy away from horror movies. And I get they chose Jason probably because he's super iconic, but nowadays, so is Pennywise. I know a lot of people were campaigning for Pennywise to be a guest fighter in Mortal Kombat 1 as well. He didn't end up getting picked, so he is definitely due to show up in a game. And on top of all that, a new It TV series is coming out soon, and Bill Skarsgård is coming back as Pennywise in that show. So it is definitely a good time to bring him back into the spotlight. I can definitely see Pennywise being added to Multiversus. I think he'd have an amazing moveset. He'd be really cool. Lots of people would be excited about him, so I'm definitely convinced this one's going to happen. Anyways, that was a really long-ass video. Thank you if any of you sat through the entire thing, and let me know in the comments who you want to see in Multiversus. Like, if there's any characters I didn't mention that you think should absolutely be added, please let me know. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, and if any of you guys want to play Multiversus with me, I think I'll have gameplay on the screen, but in case I don't, my Multiversus name is Catzilla11, so feel free to add me, and I'd love to play with you guys. But that is going to do it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new. The rest of my videos should be out soon, like the ones I promised. Story times will definitely continue, and the vlog is almost finished. I will start the Tales from the Reddit series when I have the time. And yeah, let me know if you want to see another one of these videos as well. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. I love you all, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.